Welcome back in, fellow living room artists. My name's Dan here. I'm your host on the Living Room Guitarist. Thanks for joining us for another episode. We have a fantastic guest joining us this week, and that's why I'm wearing my official Beatle Fest t-shirt from many years ago, because I knew we were going to be talking Beatles. Derek, you warned me. So welcome, Derek, into the program here.
Thank you very much for having me, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Now you're a fellow lefty like me, which is really cool.
That's right.
Yeah, what are you playing there?
This is a Taylor.
So we're talking Beatles there. I've got my Beatles t-shirt on. I've got my Beatles album cover lamp in the background there. I'm not kidding. I'm actually sitting on my Beatles rug that I have. So that's a lot of fun here. So I warned all our viewers last time that we're totally going to geek out on the Beatles here. Now you're too young to have seen them on the Ed Sullivan Show and thinking, "Wow, I got to play guitar." So what was the spark for the flame for you to pick up that instrument?
Well, so my family there was always music in my family. You know, you come into the house, a WQXR, which is a New York metropolitan radio station, classical music, always music. My older brother started playing percussion when I was about 6. So, yeah, I mean, in fact, my parents met over music. So what happened was, and I think this is one of the things that was really pretty cool about my parents. My father served in World War II, so they were that generation. So big band, crooners, that kind of thing. But yet, when I was like 6 years old, they bought me an album called The Beatles Again. Now, many people will know this album as The Beatles' Hey Jude, and what it was all of the songs that were Beatles singles in the U.S. that were never released on an album.
Right, just like Hey Jude, yeah,
Revolution, Can't Buy Me Love, I Should Have Known Better, Old Brown Shoe, Ballad of John and Yoko. They were all put on this album, and I listened. It was almost like the first time I listened to this album, my life changed. I don't know how else to describe it. I just knew my life was going to be different, and it was going to be so much more happy because of these 4 men, and of course, from Brian Epstein and George Martin and all the people who contributed to that. That was it. And when I was 13 years old, I had only Beatle albums, and I had one other non-Beatle album, which was Foreigner's first album.
Oh, yeah, Cold as Ice.
Just as a plug, Foreigner should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's no reason why that band should not be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, I think Lou Gramm would agree with you.
Yeah. So
he's not really singing with them anymore, is he?
So that was it. I mean, it was like I guess there are probably, for each of us, there are moments in our lives that are just transformative. And that moment, when I heard them for the first time, there was just something about them that was indescribable, and obviously about half of the world agrees with me.
Did you start out with a lefty guitar, or did you do the flipperoo?
Yeah, so I started out in percussion because I want to be like my brother. And interestingly, my brother Dave had what we call the Ringo Gold Sparkle set from the Let It Be, really, I mean, they call them the Get Back or Let It Be sessions, whatever. But if you see Ringo on the roof, he's got a Gold Sparkle Ludwig set. And that's the drum set my brother Dave got. And that's the one I ended up learning it on. So that sort of was my first Beatle connection in terms of playing music. And then when I got older, I had my brother's girlfriend who was a huge Paul McCartney fan and who could play guitar. She and I used to sing together, like in the living room, like you said. She lived with us for a while. Brought down this beautiful Yamaha, and I tried to play it. It was a right-handed guitar because like what 99.9% of the guitars in the world are like right-handed. And I'm like, I tried to play it right-handed, and I couldn't. I'm like, there's like something, I was like getting stuck, and so I flipped it over, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it.
I've heard it said more than once that what if the Beatles came out today? What if they were a brand new band trying to make it today? Would they make it? Would they get any attention? What's your opinion on something like that?
That's a great question, and to which my answer is I don't know. But I can tell you this. If you think about it, we're still listening to Bach, we're still listening to Mozart, to Brahms, to Beethoven, to, we're still listening to, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard and, Joe Stafford and Frank Sinatra. So the thing is, you could ask the same question about all of those artists. And the answer is, I think I would modify that question is, will we still be listening, or will people still be listening to the Beatles in 50 or 100 years? And then I can tell you absolutely the answer is yes. Absolutely.
Oh
I firmly believe that, they will, people will still be listening to that,
yeah, no question. That music, it holds up. There's a lot of bands from that era that you hear them today and you're like, it's, you can just take it or leave it. But
right,
holds up. I had one answer from a friend of mine said, yeah, if they came out today and were a brand new band, they'd probably more make it as writers, but not as a band in the current climate. Who knows? But it's just
well,
geek out over the Beatles. Now, did you ever get a chance to go to Beatlefest?
Absolutely. I went to the one in it was in, I think, New Haven, Connecticut. Well, I don't remember how many years ago. Pete Best was there. Alan Young, the drummer who played on Love Me Do. The first time Ringo came in after they switched drummers, George Martin said, well, you brought in Pete Best. I was kind of burned when you brought him in, so I hired my own drummer, who was a professional drummer, Alan Young, and so Ringo had to play like tambourine for that. And he talked about that on the Beatles anthology. So I mean, they were there, guys from Elephant's Memory, which was a band that John Lennon, when he lived in New York, wanted to play with. He approached them and he said, "I really want to play with you guys," and they're like, "No." It's like, if you do that, it'll just become John Lennon and his backing band, And he's like, "No, really, I want to play." And what happened? It became John Lennon and his band.
Well, yeah, and the rest is history, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
Now, tell us a little bit about the song that you've got in mind to kind of present today. It's something about a library, you said?
Yeah, so talking about transformative experiences. So when I was I don't know, 3 or 4, my mother enrolled my sister and me in Montessori school. Ours, one of the schools in Long Island, and it was again, it was something about being in that place and feeling so familiar. I knew that I think my whole life I was just going to be somehow in education. I love being in a library. I love books. I love, just it was almost like it was fun just to sort of like look around for stuff. And shock of all shocks, I'd have to do like some schoolwork, but somehow I'd managed to make my way over to the like section like on the Beatles, and like rock and roll music. I'm like, I just stand there and like, lead through. So I wrote about that experience, but I guess what sort of came to me was like the anxiety associated with getting work done. So
Well, we all have our journeys of how songs evolve. So I'll tell you what, let me just sit back and I will mute my mic here and we will just let you play. Folks, this is Derek here on the Living Room Guitarist.
Gotta get to a library, baby, or I won't get no rest. Now I know books are my life. Now I know 1 6 + 5. chapter, I'll be a star. Wow! Now I know books are my life. Now I know, yeah. Now I know how to make French fries. Gotta get to a library, baby. Gotta get there fast. Gotta get to a library, baby. I just won't last. I gotta get to those big doors.